Adolf Hitler. The name itself sends a shiver down your spine. He was the architect of the Third Reich and the mastermind behind some of the most horrific events in human history. The official story, the one we all learn in school, is a dramatic and definitive end. It's late April 1945. The war is lost. Soviet troops are closing in on Berlin, their artillery shells shaking the very foundations of the city. Deep underground, in a concrete maze called the Führer Bunker, Hitler prepares for his final act. He marries his longtime companion, Eva Braun, dictates his last will and testament, and then, on April 30th, the history books tell us they both took their own lives. It's a neat, tidy ending to a chaotic and brutal chapter of world history. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the end was just the beginning of a new, more mysterious chapter? The initial reports from the scene were confusing, filled with conflicting accounts. The Soviets, the first to arrive at the bunker, gave multiple, contradictory stories about what they found. First, they said he was gone. Then, they claimed they had his body. Then they changed their story again. This early confusion planted a seed of doubt, a seed that would grow into a sprawling forest of conspiracy theories. The idea that Hitler could have simply slipped away from the jaws of defeat is a tantalizing one, a mystery that begs to be investigated. Think about the scene for a moment. Berlin was in absolute chaos. Buildings were crumbling, smoke filled the air, and the lines of command were completely broken. In this kind of pandemonium, could a plan have been set in motion? Could the most wanted man in the world orchestrate the ultimate vanishing act? The bodies reportedly found were hastily burned, making immediate and positive identification nearly impossible at the time. All the key witnesses were loyal Nazis, people who would have done anything to protect their leader. It's the perfect setup for a grand deception, a final trick played on a world eager to close the book on him. This is where the adventure begins for people like me. History isn't always written in stone. Sometimes it's written in sand, with the tides of time and secrecy washing away the details. The FBI itself kept a file open on Hitler for years after the war, investigating sightings and leads from all over the globe. They took it seriously. If the world's top law enforcement agency had its doubts, maybe we should too. The official narrative is clean, but history is rarely clean. It's messy, complicated, and full of unanswered questions. And the question of what really happened in that bunker is one of the biggest of them all. So if Hitler didn't die, how did he pull it off? The theories are as elaborate as any Hollywood movie plot. The most popular version involves the use of body doubles. It's well documented that Hitler used lookalikes for security reasons throughout his rule. The theory suggests that it wasn't Hitler and Eva Braun who died in the bunker, but two unfortunate stand-ins. Their bodies were then burned beyond recognition to sell the story, while the real Hitler was already on his way out. The plan would have required meticulous timing and unwavering loyalty from his inner circle. But it's not outside the realm of possibility for a regime built on secrecy and deception. The escape route itself is a subject of intense debate. One compelling idea involves a secret tunnel leading from the Führer Bunker to a hidden airstrip. Berlin was being bombed relentlessly, but there were brief lulls. Imagine a small unmarked plane, like a Junkers Ju-52, waiting under the cover of darkness on a makeshift runway on the Tiergarten Boulevard. Piloted by one of the Luftwaffe's most skilled aviators, it could have taken off and flown low to avoid detection. The destination? A safe port in a neutral country like Spain, which was ruled by the sympathetic dictator Francisco Franco. From there, the journey could continue. Another, even more audacious theory points to a naval escape. This version of the story claims that Hitler was smuggled out of Berlin and taken to a port on the Baltic Sea. There, a U-boat, one of the last stealthy submarines in the German fleet, was waiting. These Seawolf U-boats were state-of-the-art and could travel vast distances submerged. The submarine would have navigated through Allied blockades, embarking on a long and perilous journey across the Atlantic. This theory is bolstered by the fact that two German U-boats did mysteriously surrender in Argentina months after the war ended, fueling speculation about who or what they might have been carrying. The logistics of such an escape would have been staggering. It would have required a secret network of sympathizers, codenamed Odessa, to facilitate everything from forged papers to safe houses. This organization, believed to be run by former SS officers, was dedicated to helping high-ranking Nazis escape justice after the war. Thousands of them did make it out, finding refuge in various corners of the world. If they could smuggle out notorious figures like Adolf Eichmann and Josef Mengele, the question remains, could they have also orchestrated the escape of their ultimate leader? The network was real, and its capabilities were terrifyingly effective. If Hitler escaped, where did he go? The trail almost always leads to one place: South America, specifically Argentina. Under the rule of President Juan Perón, Argentina became a well-known safe haven for fugitive Nazis after World War II. Perón's government was openly sympathetic to their cause and rolled out the welcome mat. It was a place where a former dictator could blend in, protected by a friendly government and a community of fellow exiles. Declassified FBI documents contain numerous reports of alleged Hitler sightings in the country, from staying at a remote hotel in the foothills of the Andes to living in a secluded German-style mansion. The so-called evidence that fuels these theories is a mix of eyewitness accounts, intriguing documents, and physical clues. One of the most famous stories comes from a book titled Hitler in Brazil, which claims he fled to a small town in Mato Grosso and lived there until he died at the age of 95. The author even produced a grainy photo allegedly showing an elderly Hitler posing with his girlfriend. In Argentina, researchers have pointed to strange architectural finds, like a mansion near Bariloche, that seems designed for a high-profile fugitive, complete with a watchtower and escape routes. These clues are often circumstantial, but when pieced together, they paint a compelling picture of a man in hiding. Imagine what the world would have been like if Hitler had survived. It's a chilling thought. Would he have tried to establish a Fourth Reich from his sanctuary in South America? He would have been a living symbol for neo-Nazi groups around the world, a ghost haunting the post-war peace. His survival would have been a colossal failure of Allied justice, a deep wound that would never heal for the millions who suffered under his regime. The Cold War might have played out differently, with the Soviets and Americans potentially using the hunt for Hitler as a political tool against each other. His continued existence would have been a constant, terrifying reminder that evil can sometimes escape its deserved fate. The psychological impact would have been immense. For Holocaust survivors and their families, the knowledge that the man responsible for their immeasurable pain was living out his days in quiet retirement would be an unbearable injustice. It would change our understanding of the end of the war, transforming it from a story of victory and justice into one of failure and escape. The Nuremberg trials, meant to bring Nazi leaders to account, would feel incomplete, almost a sham without the main culprit. Every rumor and every sighting would be front-page news, creating a perpetual state of anxiety and anger across the globe. Despite the thrilling nature of these escape theories, it's crucial to step back and look at the hard evidence. The vast majority of credible historians and experts are united in their conclusion. Adolf Hitler died in the Führerbunker on April 30th, 1945. This consensus isn't based on blind faith in the official story, but on decades of meticulous research and forensic science. The primary evidence comes from multiple corroborating eyewitness accounts from people who were in the bunker during those final hours, like his secretary Traudl Junger and bodyguard Rochus Misch. They independently described the suicides, the smell of gunpowder, and the subsequent burning of the bodies. In 2017, a team of French scientists was granted rare access by the Russian government to examine the last known physical remains of Hitler, which have been held in Moscow since the war. These remains consist of a skull fragment with a bullet hole and a set of teeth. Using advanced forensic techniques, they confirmed that the teeth matched Hitler's dental records, which were well documented. They found no traces of meat fiber on the tartar, consistent with Hitler's known vegetarianism. Most importantly, the damage to the teeth was consistent with the effects of cyanide, supporting the account that he bit down on a poison capsule while also shooting himself. So why do the escape theories persist? Part of it is human nature. We are drawn to mysteries and conspiracies, especially those involving famous and infamous figures. The idea of a secret escape is far more exciting than a grim, pathetic end in a concrete bunker. Furthermore, the initial confusion and propaganda from the Soviets created a vacuum of information that was quickly filled with speculation. For some, The idea that such a monstrous figure could have such a mundane death seems anticlimactic. A grand escape better fits the scale of his evil. These stories provide a different kind of ending, one that keeps the mystery alive. Ultimately, while the stories of U-boats and Andean hideouts make for incredible expeditions into the unknown, the scientific and historical evidence points firmly to Berlin. The skull fragment and teeth in Moscow provide a definitive forensic link. The eyewitnesses, though loyal to him, told consistent stories under intense interrogation for years. The official narrative may lack the romance of a great escape, but it is supported by the weight of evidence. Hitler's story didn't end with a quiet retirement in the sun. It ended as it should have, in the fire and ruins of the empire he created. The mystery is compelling, but the history is clear.